We're back with part 2 of our Alan Perry interview. Talking more about his impressive Aboukir Bay board, Alan gets into details about gaming, he focuses in on the battle, he talks some rules for boats, and he really digs in deep to the troops that were involved. We'll talk a little bit about the rules and the way you played this game specifically, but this was actually part of a multi-part series of games that you did, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've played actually this one about 3 times, I think. But a couple of German friends came over for a long weekend, and we did 3 consecutive battles. The landing here at Aboukir Bay, the next battle, which was going down the peninsula towards Alexandria, but there's a battle in between, Mandara, which was more of a sort of parade of British pageantry down the peninsula, and the French firing at them and running back and then firing again. But there's a proper battle, and then there's a major battle of Alexandria at the end of that. There are other battles at Cairo and various other places, but we did that section on the peninsula.
That sounds like quite a long weekend of gaming there.
It was yes, it was a long weekend, and yeah, quite draining at the end, because I was doing all the board movement, sort of changing all the terrain over and sorting out all the figures in between. But it was great. It was really good fun. How
long does it take you roughly to set something like this up then, just from start to finish? Do you have to dig out lots of stuff hidden away in boxes?
Yes. Well, not hidden away really. I knew where they were, and drawers and things. This isn't too bad. Desert terrain is quite easy to set up because it's not a lot of things you stick on the terrain really. And luckily, with this, the board it's on, the sea is just my painted table. I just painted the top of the table. So this is quite quick in the end to set up. Not too bad.
Okay, I mean, obviously that fits in nicely with the theme of our magazine this month, which is Hit the Beach. So you've got the boats, which you created and used in this game, but there aren't really particularly rules for that kind of thing in Black Powder, which is the system you were using for these games. What things did you introduce in order to make that a part of your gaming?
Well, I had to do a little bit of tweaking for the boats really, and as far as I remember, because it was about a year and a half ago since I played this actually, I think the boats move in the same way as Black Powder, but 6 inches instead of 12 inches. And actually during the actual assault, it went off extremely well. It almost like it had been rehearsed before as well. They had actually rehearsed the whole invasion. And the 3 invasions they did elsewhere in Holland and Cadiz were disastrous, but this one went off like a parade ground. Apart from one flank which held back a bit because of they were merchant seamen rowing rather than naval crews. So you got the sort of slightly randomised dice roll of Black Powder, with some oarsmen holding back a bit, and others going in.
Did you have the ability? I'm guessing there wasn't much fire coming from the boats as they came into shore.
Well, not from the boats. Not much from. There was a little bit, but they had a barrage from all the ships which were beyond these flatboats, which had landed the boat, these were coming from. So there's a huge fleet which bombarded, but at long range, these dunes.
Okay. Did you introduce rules for that then in your game?
Yeah. I think it's about 10 dice rolls for about 2 turns, I think, 2 or 3 turns, but only hitting on 6s because of long range, and it didn't really do a lot of damage.
Right.
In reality, it didn't do a lot of damage either.
Just maybe keeps them pinned down a bit so they can't do as much damage either.
That's right. Yeah.
And then once the boats got to the beach, did you have any disembarkation rules and things like that?
Yes. When they disembark, the boat encounters are shaken, or sort of, because they're not unformed anyway. So they have to form up once they're on the beach, which is quite difficult when you've got cavalry around and artillery firing at you, which is what they found at the time.
So how when you've played, you said you played this one 3 times, has it gone in favour of one side or the other in your experience?
Yes. Each time it's been quite close. It has been quite close each time, but the British have just done it. And in the actual battle, there's 2,000 French, about 5,500 British troops, and they caused huge amounts of casualties coming in. The French did on the British boats because it all jam packed. In one round, took out 22 men in a boat.
Right.
So it was quite deadly, and but they managed to do it. Go on.
Sorry, did you have any rules for sinking the boats at all? Is there anything on the ground that can perform that?
Well, basically, each of the boats holds a battalion. So we were saying each battalion, which has normally 3 hits, if you hit the boat 3 times, that's the boat sunk or scattered or whatever.
Right.
So it's good as sort of gone, basically. But the artillery firing at them, I think it was a -1 because of the targets weren't lines of troops but small targets.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it looks really impressive. I instantly want to stay the rest of the day and play on it, but I know we can't. Well, you say that, but I don't think Dan would be too happy about that. But so you've got these boats, you've got this awesome like beach landing setup here. In terms of building the terrain for this, it looks like you've got quite a sort of simple system. You said you've painted the board top. If other people want to kind of recreate this same sort of effect, what would you suggest as good, quick tip, hobby tips for doing that?
Well, I mean, you can get seascape mats now, which are great. I needed quite a big area to cover, and this is before the mats came out. Actually, I painted this, but I can. Yeah, I mean, each of these, this is just a little section of beach which is hardboard and a little sort of raise up to the normal board, and just painted, sort of sanded and painted, and it just sort of slots onto the same height of the normal board, and that's the quickest way of doing beaches, really. Or you could just use sand, pour sand along it, actual sand.
It's quite smart though, because you've just basically taken your modular boards and just added that little extra buffer on the edge.
Yeah.
Without wanting to sound too intense on my investigation, does that kind of match up with the topography of the beaches, or is that a bit too steep if you were looking at it historically?
In reality, this came up probably about like that. This area, but the rest of it is sort of similar.
Okay, so yeah, so it even works kind of in a historical perspective. Very cool. I guess the other question, because I know that the following issue we've got is going to be on River Eaton combat. Can you think of any ways that your boats could maybe be converted to go deeper down the rivers once they've gone past the beaches, or are these very much more just for moving from the frigates and stuff into...
Well, these flatboats were used all over the place. They used in America in 1812, up rivers and in lakes and everything else. They did huge amounts of assaults and up Potomac, and but there would be the same flat boats and barges, no different really, and quite loads of other places all around the world, and sort of Java and in sort of East Indies and stuff. Basically the same boats, same troops really, same types.
So they're quite diverse for all that kind of gaming.
They really are, yeah.
I mean, is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you're particularly proud of on these boards or in the range itself that you just want to draw our attention to?
It's colourful. It's really cool. I mean, it's really colourful. I haven't got them all here. There's a load more French, obviously. The thing was, with this particular battle, was they only had 2,000, but they had another 3,000 back in Alexandria, which they could have sent, but they didn't think it was going to be worth it. They thought the British weren't going to land in front of us, just a mere 2,000, but we can hold them off, and they didn't. So there are a lot more French, but this is what they had there.
Right. And I guess, do you want to give us a little kind of tour through the stuff that is on the table, just a few more specifics, if that's cool, and we'll go over that.
On the left is the 51st Demi Brigade. We were quite late arriving. 25th Demi Brigade, 75th, various artillery and horse artillery here. The 20th Dragoons and the 18th Dragoons there, and beyond that, on the right there's the 63rd, supported by artillery as well. 61st Demi Brigade, supported by artillery on the right. Well, off board there was a huge fleet, British fleet, which had frigates and ships of the line, who bombarded the dunes first before the waves came in. The first wave came in. This was the initial assault on table. It was the initial, or the main assault force, which was 5,500. There were, after that, there's another 13,000 to land as well. But this was the main assault. On my left, on the British right, that was General Moore. Later became famous in Peninsula. That was his division. That was the biggest part of the landing force, and he was the main force that hit the beaches first. To the left of him were the guards. There's 2 battalions of guards. I've only got 1 boat for the guards. There should be 2, really. There's Cochrane and actually Moore were in the boat with the yellow and blue pennant. That's where the command boat was, and that's a particular pennant for it. To the left of the command boat was Coote's brigade. Coote's brigade were rowed in by merchant seamen who were a little nervous of the gunfire coming in, so they held off a little bit and went slightly to the left. But Moore's division were rowed in by naval crews, which went straight to the beach and with no hesitation at all. Behind the boats are small boats called cutters, which were there really just to pick up the wounded and any floaters, debris. Any people falling over.
Well, we couldn't have scripted a better ending than that. Thank you, Alan, for being such a welcoming host, for setting up this board, for letting us into such a wonderful gaming sanctuary, and for sharing all of those amazing details.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.